Thank you, John, for that introduction. As John said, my name is Matt Miller, and I truly have the best job in the world. I'm an elementary principal. And every day I get to hang out with kids ages 5 through 11 years old, and it truly is the best job in the world. And the reasons it's the best job in the world is the things kids say and write about, like this one right here. When I was 8 years old, my dog kept pooping on my yard, so guess what I did? I pooped on his yard. Notice we got a little diagram right there, too. Got tired of the neighbor's dog. Or this one right here. How many of you would give credit for this kid? Expand. Or better yet, this. Anybody give credit to that? I would, because I was that kid. And last but not least, I think my mom should do less of this. This reminds me that when teachers come back and parents come back at the beginning of the year, we always say, we'll believe half of what they tell us if you believe half of what they tell you. But I tell you that to say, it's funny for me to, after 20 years of being an elementary principal, that saying the word elementary principal just still fascinates me. Because as a elementary kid, I was a problem. I drove teachers crazy. And I was asking the question, why? And so some would say I got a lot of on-the-job training at a very young age because I was in the principal's office a lot as an elementary kid. But what I learned at a young age was this, is that I learned real quick the teachers that cared about me and the teachers that didn't want anything to do with me and sent me right out of that office. And so what we know is that we work for those that care about us. And in any relationship that we're in, I think there's three things that we're constantly asking. One is, can I trust you? Do you care about me? And are you committed to my success? And when we can answer yes to those questions, great things can happen. And so this power of positive relationships, no matter what role you're in, we all to those three questions. I have the pleasure to talk to groups about the power of positive relationships, and I always have somebody come up and they'll say, Matt, I get it. I get that relationships are important, but you know what? I got a lot on my plate. There's a lot of work to do. And I look at him and I say, but this is the plate. This is the plate that so no matter what vision, no matter what your mission statement, no matter what you're trying to do, it all comes back to the relationships in our organization. I was here 3 weeks ago, and God bless that I was in this auditorium, because I was listening to 3 magnificent speakers talk about Gen Y, ages 21 through 35, for those of you that don't know. And I realized one thing. I'm getting really old. Was. But I was listening to the theme of relationships and leadership and resiliency and step out of your comfort zone and love. And I'm squirming in my seat right over there because I'm like, these are the messages that we're delivering to 5, 6, and 7-year-olds right now. And then yesterday I sit here and I hear Jason talk about pick one thing to get really good at. And I hear Susan O'Leary talk about the cornerstone and how people have leadership roles in everything in the organization. And then I hear John O'Leary tell a message about a kid that looked him in the eyes and said, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me. And we have kids all across this country in schools looking at people saying, hey, I'm a leader. Don't forget about me. And that's our work. Because 15 years ago, we were doing great things with kids in the schools that I was blessed to be a part of. And 10 years ago, we were doing great things. But 5 years ago, we changed our mission statement to building leaders one relationship at a time. And we set this mission of every kid is a leader. Not some, not the elected ones. Every single kid is a leader. And so with that, Dr. Stephen Covey reminds us that leadership is communicating a person's worth and potential so clearly that they're able to see it in themselves. And that's what our work is all about. We're taking every kid and we're sitting and we're looking at their strengths. We're looking at them sometimes for the first time and communicating their worth and potential and their strengths. And then at that same time, we're giving them the choice in leadership roles throughout the school to become a better them at the ages of 5, 6, and 7 years old. I'll give you 2 examples. 2 weeks ago, we had a teacher assistant position opening, and I had 3 candidates. I went to my 5th graders and I said, hey, Anybody in the strength of interpersonal relationships or want to work on that? Next thing you know, I had 6 kids running the interview. I had one little girl walk up. She was the one that greeted every candidate with a handshake and eye contact and said, "Welcome to our school. I'm going to take you on back." And one by one, they introduced themselves by name with good eye contact and voice. They each asked their questions. At the end of the 3 candidates, they did a plus delta chart on the strengths of each candidate. They did their areas of concern, shuffled their 3 candidates, and hand them in. I've never seen more feedback, more spot on than those 3 kids. 2 days later, Jennifer Rushing was hired by that committee that ran. I didn't do a thing with it. The neat story behind that is Jennifer walks up on her first day, and all 6 kids throughout the day were like, welcome to our school. You did a really good job. I loved how you're a mom. I loved how you were great with kids. And then at the lunch table, they're spreading the word about Jennifer Rushing. You think she had a great first day at work? Absolutely. Give you another story that takes that down to what we're really trying to do. Little Quentin was a first grader last year. Didn't really behave in class, asked a lot of questions, drove the teacher crazy. Does that ring a bell? So as you can see, I kind of have a passion for those kids. So Quentin's hanging out in my office today, and I'm giving him some time to cool down, and I'm playing with this new computer that they gave me. And all of a sudden, Quentin comes up and fixes it for me. And I'm like, wow, Quentin, you're really good at technology. He kind of shakes his head. I'm like, hey, Quentin, just curious. In those first grade classrooms, do the headphones sometimes don't work or the computer locks up? He kind of wouldn't answer. So later on, Mrs. Gibson, his teacher, came down, and I said, hey, I think Quentin has a new leadership role in class. And so that next week, when kids' headphones locked up or something happened, guess who they called? Quentin. And Quentin would fix it. Do you think Quentin started building relationships with kids a little bit more? Yeah. You think his behavior improved? Yeah. You think he walked a little taller and a little bit more confident? Quentin stopped your problems. Because we communicated his worth and potential. He was really good at technology. And next thing you know, he's a leader in his class. We're not just doing it for Quentin. We're just not doing it for the kids like Matt and Quentin that end up in the principal's office. We're trying to do that for every single kid, and we're focused on every single kid and finding their leadership. And I think that's the true magic of our work right now, is finding a kid's strengths and putting them in those leadership roles. Because my hope and dream is, since we're focused on every single kid, that then when they get into middle school or when they get into high school and they start losing hope or they start sitting there thinking like they're by themselves, that's when sometimes bad decisions happen. And I'm hoping our work that's starting at the age of 5, in fact, I even saw it the other day in a preschool room of 3-year-olds, that they know, oh, I remember this kid has a similar interest or strength of mine. And we're building those relationships so they have that later on. And it's all about this power of positive relationships. And it won't surprise you that our philosophy is all about every child that's walking around is a gift, they're gifted, and there's genius inside of every kid. And so as every kid's walking around our hall, we want to make sure that not only are we teaching them and learning, but we know what that genius is inside of every kid. It also won't surprise you that we're seeing a high attendance rate. We lead the district in student attendance the last 4 years because kids are engaged. They love to come to school. We have a high sense of belonging, not only the kids that live right next door to our school, but the kids that live in the city of St. Louis that come out to us have a higher sense of belonging last year than our kids right next door. Our academics have increased because leaders pick one thing to get really good at, they set a goal, and they reflect on it on a weekly basis, and that's a strategy we use with our kids. And last but not least, bullying incidents are significantly down. And why are they significantly down? Because leadership is defined as making a difference in someone else's life, and our kids are doing exactly that. They are bystanders. They do the right thing because that's what a leader's all about. So how do we get here? How do we get these results? Well, it all starts with the teachers, the adults. Ever seen this quote? There's a reason why we have food at every staff meeting, but there's also a reason why, because it all starts with these adults right here. And Gallup reminded us this summer that now we're up to 70% of people that are sitting in jobs that they either hate or they're disengaged, and now they're even saying perks don't work. But see, I'm blessed to be in education. And the people that I've met in the 8 different buildings that I've worked in, they pick it as a calling. Why? Because their why is all about they love kids, and they want to make a difference with kids. So I think, fortunately, in the profession I've been blessed to be in, we don't hit this realm because they love kids. So what we have to do is exactly what you heard earlier, is we constantly just have to be bringing people back to their why. And our why in education is kids and loving kids. So we're constantly reminding ourselves that we're blessed with literally the best job in the world. And I think there's 3 priorities that every organization should send to their staff or to their colleagues in an organization. And the first is taking care of ourselves. I admit publicly that I read the Oprah magazine from time to time. And Dr. Phil years ago wrote that we're like bank accounts. If we only make withdrawals, we end up emotionally and physically bankrupt. We must make regular deposits to our minds, souls, and bodies. You must take time. That's why Dr. 7th is sharpen the saw. The second is your family. I don't think we send the message you have to take care of your family. Your family comes before your job. I'll give you 2 examples. Goedeker Furniture here in St. Louis runs an ad that says, hey, we're open Monday through Saturday, but we're closed on Sundays. You know why we're closed on Sundays? Because the people in our organization, we want them home. We know stores are only open on weekends, but we hope you shop with us the other 6 days of the week. What a great message to the people that work at Goedeker Furniture. What a great message to me as a consumer that, yeah, you know what? I like your mission statement. I'd like to try that out. Dr. Marty, superintendent of schools for Parkway, hired me. First thing he did is he sat me down and he said, hey, I know you have a sophomore daughter. I know you have a 7th grade son. Don't miss any of their events this year. What a great message from the boss saying, hey, put your family first. And last but not least, we need to have a system of support in our organizations to where the principal, CEO, the manager is not the only one responsible for taking care of everybody. Because everybody here is a leader that can make a difference in someone's life, and that's what this is all about. I'll give you a perfect example. I checked into a hotel not too long ago, and the lady handed me a card. And she said, hey, if you catch anybody doing anything great, will you jot down their name and hand it in at check-in? I'm like, absolutely. So on the second night, I noticed there was a big pile of chocolates on the bed because she saw that we had 2 kids. So I jotted down her name and handed it in at the end. And I left thinking, wow, they have a system of support in place where every single person that checks into the hotel is looking for the positives and trying to catch the great things. And I would have loved to have been in that staff meeting to read all of those great things that have been turned in that week by people. Keeping people focused on the positives. So when we're taking care of ourselves, we're putting our family first, and we have a system of support in place that reminds us that everybody in the organization is taking care of it, I think that's when great things can happen. How Full Is Your Bucket 10 years ago reminded us of these stats. Number 1 reason people leave their jobs, they don't feel appreciated. 9 out of 10 people are more productive around positive people. We talk all the time about how it takes 5 positives to counter just that 1 negative. And 65% of Americans 10 years ago received no recognition in the workplace last year. I thought that 65% was a little high until I became the new principal at Kellison Elementary. And one morning, Nancy was walking Johnny down, and Johnny's hair was all messed up, and you could tell he was in a bad mood. And next thing you know, they're working in the conference room right by my office, and next thing you know, I hear him talking. Next thing I know, I hear him laughing. And they work for about a half an hour, and Johnny goes back to class. He's got a smile on his face. Nancy walks him back. As Nancy comes back to the office, I'm like, Nancy, thank you for what you're doing here at Kellison Elementary. You are making a difference. Johnny woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You turned him around. He went back to class. There's no question he's going to have a great day thanks to you. You're a leader. You're making a difference. Thank you. She started crying. And I'm like, what did I say? I can't win at home. I can't win here. She looked me in the eye and she said, in the 15 years I've been doing this job, not one person has stopped and thanked me and looked me in the eye for the work that I do with kids. I'm like, 15 years? She goes, yeah, I got the generic email, and so forth. But for somebody to look me in the eye makes all the difference in the world. And I looked at her that day and I said, in every organization that I'm going to be a part of, I'm going to make sure that every single one knows that they make a difference in the organization. The neat thing about that is 6 months later, I ran into Nancy. She ran up to me at this meeting. She goes, Matt, you remember that compliment you gave me 6 months ago? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'm still riding on it. Think about that for a second. I took 30 seconds out of my day to look somebody in the eye and remind them of their why, and it took her on 6 months later. It reminds us, and I'll end with this story, of the power of one. And I don't think we remind people enough of how we make a difference in the lives of every person that we come in contact with. And so I'll end with this. I have the best job in the world. I grab a cup of coffee every morning, I go to the lobby, and I greet hundreds of kids. So on a Monday morning, Johnny walks in with a Cardinals jersey on, and I'm like, hey, Johnny, what's up? Okay, we'll see you. Nice Cardinals jersey. All right. And on Tuesday morning, Johnny walks by me, and he's got his Cardinals jersey on, and I see David Freese on the back. I'm like, hey, do you know David Freese, St. Louis? Okay, see ya. And on Wednesday, Johnny walks in, and he's got his Cardinals jersey on. And I stop him, I'm like, Johnny, hey, we got the Cubs in town this weekend. All right, we'll see you, bud. So before I could get to the lobby on Thursday, Johnny was on the phone. And she said, Mr. Miller, I got a complaint. I'm like, what's that? She goes, I want you to stop talking to my kid when he walks in the morning. And I'm like, okay, that's the first time I've ever had that request as a principal, so can you give me some more information? She's like, yeah, you noticed anything about Johnny the last 3 days? I'm like, now that you say that, he's had a Cardinals jersey on. He's like, yeah. Guess what he's asking me to do every night, Mr. Miller? Wash the damn Cardinals jersey. Mr. Miller, can I tell you the one thing I hate more than anything in this world? Laundry. So how about next time we say, hey, Johnny, you combed your hair? Hey, Johnny, did you do your homework? Hey, Johnny, did you tie your shoes today? And I'm like, hey, you got a deal. Because what did Johnny figure out? Odds are pretty good that you have a Cardinals jersey on. Mr. Miller's going to talk to you. And did I know that 3-second, 5-second conversation was making a difference with Johnny? Had no idea. So I hope you're reminded of the power of one and the blessing of power of positive relationships. Because if you take 30 seconds or if you take 5 seconds, we all have the ability to be leaders, and it's all about the power of positive relationships. Thank you.